Okay, hi, welcome back. Let's finish CARO 2020. Let us finish CARO 2020. Paragraph 1. Yeah, it's an order given by central government. If CARO is applicable, auditor has to report on 21 matters. Now this order is divided in 4 para. Para 1 talks about applicability. Para 2 says if CARO is applicable, auditor has to report on matters given in para 3 and 4. Para 3 covers this 21 matters. Out of 21 matters, we have done 10. And our para 4 says if answer to anything is negative, we have to give reasons. Okay, going to the 11th point. Going to the 11th point, frauds. Whether any fraud by the company did it, or on the company, someone else did it. Whether any fraud by the company or on the company have been noticed or reported during the year. The company did a fraud on someone, or someone did a fraud on company. Any such fraud is noticed or reported during the year. Nature and the amount is to be reported. Plus, whether we, auditor, whether we have reported any frauds to central government under form number ADT4. So whether any report has been filed by auditors in ADT4 with the central government, so uska details is to be given. So yes, we have filed a report with central government. And whether the auditor has considered the whistleblower complaint. Whistleblower is those people who come out and speak about the frauds. Whistleblower. They blow the whistle, oh, there is something wrong going on. They are the people who come and tell. Whether the auditor has considered the whistleblower complaints. Okay, so whether any fraud by the company or on the company has been noticed or reported during the year. If yes, nature and amount of fraud is to be disclosed. Whether we, the auditor, have filed ADT4 about the frauds to the central government, uska detail. And whether the auditor has considered the whistleblower complaints, if any, received during the year by the company. Okay, next, 12th, Nidhi Company. Okay, Nidhi Company, they act in a manner similar to banks, but for a very smaller group. They raise money from small group of people. They give loans amongst them only. They raise money from small group of people. They give loans amongst them only. What does Nidhi Company do? Nidhi means self-help. They raise money from small group of individuals and give loans amongst them only. It's a kind of cooperative society type wala, but it's not a cooperative society wala, it's not a cooperative bank, but it's a Nidhi Company. It's kind of NBFC, but for that smaller group of person, they don't work on a commercial basis. So unke norms for registration are relaxed norms. But yeah, you are dealing with public money. If you deal with public money, there are certain provisions of banking company applicable to you. Now if you remember, in a bank, we had a capital adequacy ratio 9%. The bank should have their own capital. They can't run only on public's money. They can't run only on public's money. They should have their own capital as well. The same here. The Nidhi Company ke liye net owned fund to deposit liability ratio should not exceed 1:20. Means at least out of every 20 rupee you take from public, 1 rupee should be yours also. Simple words, 5% should be owned fund. The bank mein capital adequacy ratio was 9%. Yahan pe 5% is your own money. 5% is your own money. This is similar to capital adequacy. This is like capital adequacy ratio. You need 5% of your own money. See, you are taking money from public, giving loans to them. You're working on public's money. Safety measures should be there. Same way, we had basically CRR, SLR. Under banks, we had CRR around 4%. That money you have to deposit with RBI. SLR, Statutory Liquidity Ratio. यहाँ पे भी similarly, out of the deposits taken, 10%, whatever deposits you have taken from public, 10% should be kept in banks as a term deposit, unencumbered term deposit. So this is like SLR, Statutory Liquidity Ratio की तरह है. And third, whether there is any default in payment of interest or repayment of the deposits which you have taken. So three things. So auditor has to report if it's a Nidhi company. If it's a Nidhi company, it's kind of NBFC, but they are registered separately. They are directly registered with MCA, and उनके लिए relaxed provisions are there. They don't operate for public at large. They operate for a smaller group of people. उनके members बनेंगे, and they will work only for the members. They'll take deposit from members. They'll give loan only to the members. So as you are taking public money, using them, some precautions are required. So you can't run only on public money. Somewhat your money should also be there. Net own fund to deposit liability ratio should not exceed 1:20. Out of whatever public deposits you have taken, 10% of that money you keep it in an unencumbered term deposit with bank or post office. Unencumbered term deposits यहाँ पे with bank or post office. So that much money you keep it safely separate. It's like a statutory liquidity ratio maintaining. And whether there's any default done in payment of interest or principal by the Nidhi company. 13th, related party transaction. Now, for any related party transaction, the approvals which are required, they are given in section 177, 188. This deals with approvals required. 177 is audit committee. So this is approvals required. Whether the required approvals are taken or not, for any related party transaction, one audit committee ka approval required, board ka approval required, and few cases shareholders approval required. Audit committee will mandatory approve all related party transaction. Section 177 is related party, audit committee. 188 talks about BOD's approval, and yes, for some cases shareholders approvals are required. So whether section 177, 188 are complied and related party transactions are disclosed in notes to account as per AS 18. So they have been disclosed in financial statement. Okay. So one, they are in compliance with section 177, 188 and the details are disclosed in financial statement. This is 13th. 14, internal audit. Whether the company has an internal audit system commensurate with size and nature of business. Whether the company has internal audit system commensurate with size and nature of business. Now actually section 138 is on internal audit. So few companies which is given under section 138, they are required to have an internal audit mandatorily for them. So we need to report whether the company has an internal audit system commensurate, proper with regards to size and nature of business, and whether the report of internal auditor has been considered by statutory auditor. So did we consider the report of internal auditor while doing our audit? If internal auditor says this area weak, did we consider it? Did we put in more efforts there? So that is to be reported. 15th, non-cash transaction with director. Section 192, whether it has been complied or not. Now section 192 says you cannot enter into any non-cash transaction with director unless it is for purchase of an asset. You are acquiring asset from director. I am buying a land from director. I may pay by shares. I'm buying a land from director, I may pay by shares. So that's allowed. Otherwise, it's not allowed. Any non-cash transaction with director, whether section 192 has been complied. Any non-cash transaction with director, whether section 192 is complied. Now I just write over here. As per section 192, non-cash transaction with director is not permitted except it is for purchase or acquisition of asset. If it is for purchase or acquisition of asset, then allowed, otherwise not allowed. So I am purchasing a land from director, I am paying by share, वो हो सकता है. Otherwise, non-cash transaction with director is not allowed. If there is a non-cash transaction with director, I have to report whether section 192 is complied or not. Now sir, what if there are no transactions? No non-cash transaction? Do you write there are no non-cash transaction? Accordingly, this clause is not applicable. If clause is not applicable, still write it. If clause is not applicable, still write it. Next, 16th. Next, 16th. Registration with RBI Act. Now, few companies like banks, NBFCs, they need to be registered with RBI. So, whether the company is required to be registered under section 45IA of RBI Act, so whether the company is required to be registered under section 45IA of RBI Act, if so, whether the registration has been obtained. Second, whether the company has conducted any non-banking finance or housing finance activity without valid certificate of registration. See, if you are NBFC or housing finance company, you need to obtain a certificate from RBI. You cannot commence your business before that. So whether you commenced your business, conducted any such activity without valid certificate of registration. So that is to be answered. Whether company is a core investment company. Now what is this core investment company? We'll learn in chapter of NBFC. We have a chapter audit of NBFC. We'll learn there, but I'll tell you the brief. Core investment company. What is this core investment company? CIC is investment company which invests only in one group of companies. Core investment company. They invest only in one group, say Adani Group. So they will invest only in Adani Group companies only, like say Adani Power, Adani Port, Adani Enterprise, Adani Green Energy. So CIC is an investment company which invests only in one group companies, one group of companies. Now, investment companies are a part of NBFC. Investment companies are part of NBFC. They need to be registered with RBI. Okay, investment companies are part of NBFCs. They need to be registered with RBI. But certain CIC are exempted from registration with RBI. Okay, so I do one thing. I'll just continue. I put some double star. It is continued below. Investment companies are covered under NBFC. And they are to be registered with RBI. Okay, core investment companies with certain criteria fulfilled are exempted from registration with RBI. Okay, so if they fulfill certain criteria, they are exempted from registration with RBI. Okay, sir, which criteria? That you will learn in the chapter of NBFC. Which criteria? That we will learn in chapter of NBFC. One of the thing is they don't raise public money, so they have not taken public deposit. Second criteria is the total asset is less than 100 crores. So there are few criterias. CIC with certain criteria fulfilled are exempted from registration with RBI. Okay, now read that point, you will be clear. CIC is core investment company. They invest only in one group of companies. So 90% of their investments are in one group of companies. Okay. Okay, A point, whether the company is required to be registered under section 45 IA of RBI Act. If yes, whether the registration has been obtained. Whether company has conducted in a non-banking financial or housing financial activities without obtaining certificate of registration. Whether the company is a core investment company. If so, whether it fulfills the criteria of CIC. And in that case, whether the company is exempted or unregistered. So when it fulfills the criteria, if you are fulfilling criteria, you are exempted from registration. Where a group has more than one CIC, the number of CIC which are part of the group has to be reported. So suppose a group, parent is a NBFC, they have many other NBFCs as subsidiary. So group has more than one CIC as part of group. The group has more than one CIC as part of group. Indicate the number of CICs which are part of the group. Okay, so this is few things which are to be reported. This will be covered. This will be covered in chapter of NBFC. Will be covered in detail in chapter of Audit of NBFC. In chapter of Audit of NBFC. Okay, simple words में company is required to obtain registration for RBI. पहले है कि नहीं है, तो whether the registration is obtained or not. You should not have carried on any activity of NBFC or housing finance unless you obtain a certificate. If you are a core investment company and you are exempted from registration, do you fulfill that criteria? And if a group has more than one CIC, you are required to report the number of CICs which are a part of group. Next, 17th, cash losses. Whether company has incurred cash losses during the year, cash losses, operating cash flow negative. Cash losses is operating cash flow is negative, उसको बोलते cash losses. If yes, what's the amount of cash loss? 18th, resignation of auditor. So whether there has been any resignation of statutory auditor, if so, whether the auditor has considered the issue, objection and concern raised by outgoing auditor. So whether the incoming auditor, that is you, so whether the incoming auditor, we are reporting now, so we are the incoming auditor, so whether we have considered the issues, objections, concerns raised by outgoing auditor. If auditor had resigned and then we were appointed, did we consider issue, objection, concerns raised by the outgoing auditor? Next, material uncertainty related to going concern. On the basis of financial ratios, aging, expected date of realization of assets, payment of liabilities, other information, the auditor's knowledge of board of directors and management plans, whether auditor is of the opinion that no material uncertainty exists, as on the date of audit report, that company is capable of meeting liabilities as at the balance sheet date as and when they fall due within a period of 1 year. Within a period of 1 year from the balance sheet date. So whether the auditor is of opinion there is no material uncertainty related to going concern. So that is to be reported. 10th, unspent amount of CSR. Okay, we have a chapter corporate social responsibility in FR. We have a chapter corporate social responsibility in FR. As per section 135 of Companies Act, as per section 135 of Companies Act, we are required to spend 2% of net profit on CSR. Okay, I just write here. As per section 135 of Companies Act 2013, comma, companies covered under CSR are required to spend, companies covered under CSR rules are required to spend 2% of net profit on CSR activities. If you are covered under CSR rules, you have to spend 2% of net profit on CSR activities. If you don't spend, what is to be done? If there's an ongoing project, you have to transfer it to a separate bank account. If there's an ongoing project, you have to transfer it to a separate bank account within 30 days from the end of financial year. Financial year over, you are not yet spent, transfer it to a separate bank account if it's an ongoing project. If it's not an ongoing project, you have to transfer it to a fund, give it to government within a period of 6 months from the end of financial year. So you're required to spend this unspent. It's other than ongoing project. Other than ongoing project, this is ongoing project. You have to transfer it to a fund and here you have to transfer to a special account. This is a separate bank account. So here you have to transfer to a separate bank account, actually within 30 days. The ongoing project है, you transfer to a separate bank account, not a ongoing project. You're not spent and आपका कोई project भी नहीं है. Give it to government within a period of 6 months from the end of financial year. Government will spend in CSR. आप नहीं कर सकते हो, government है ना, आप उनको दे दो पैसा. तो as per section 135 of Companies Act 2013, companies covered under CSR rules are required to spend 2% of net profit on CSR activity. If you have not spent, if there's an ongoing project, keep it in a separate bank account within 30 days from year end, and then you can use it. You can use it in next 3 years. But it's not an ongoing project. Yaar, I have not used money, I don't have a project also. Give it to government. Fund which is set up by government. Fund set up by government. Give it to them within 6 months from expiry of financial year. To transfer to a special account, यहाँ पे I just add within 30 days from end of financial year. Within 30 days from end of financial year, you transfer to a separate bank account. You can use it next 3 years में. You can use it next 3 years में. This is already covered in FR. You have to spend 2%. If you are not spending, project ongoing है तो अभी पैसा अलग कर दो, then you can use it. If there is no ongoing project, give it to the fund within 6 months from the end of financial year. So I have to report whether this has been done or not. And the last one, qualification adverse remark in CARO report of group companies. Okay, see, when you are having a adverse remark in CARO report of group companies, when you're having a adverse remark in CARO report of group companies, subsidiaries, that all, so that should be included in your report of CFS. Standalone में नहीं, your report of CFS should include this point. So CARO is not applicable for auditors reporting on CFS except clause 21. Okay, so clause 21 में whenever I am clause 21 says if there is a qualification adverse remark in CARO report of group companies, whether there has been any qualification adverse remark in CARO report of group companies which are included in CFS, if yes, the details are to be given along with the para numbers. Okay, so this 21 clause is mandatory to be replied. We did till 10 before the break. If I just see after 10th, 11th, fraud on the company, by the company done, uska detail, nature and amount. ADT 4 में whether we have reported any frauds to central government and whether the auditor has considered the whistleblower ka complaint. Nidhi Company net own fund to deposit liability ratio does not exceed 1:20. Out of the public deposit, 10% they've kept in unencumbered term deposit with bank or post office, and whether they've defaulted in payment. 13th was related party transaction. Section 177, 188 are complied or not, and the related party transactions are disclosed in financials. Internal audit, whether the company has an internal audit system commensurate with the size and nature of business and whether their reports are considered by us while doing our audit. 15, non-cash transaction with director. Section 192 is complied. 16, registration with RBI, whether company is required to get registration with RBI. If yes, whether the registration has been obtained. Then they are telling whether you have done any non-banking activities or housing finance activities without obtaining certificate of commencement from RBI or certificate of registration from RBI. If you are a CIC and you are exempted, whether that criteria are still fulfilled. And if a group has more than one CIC, the number of CICs are to be mentioned. Whether there are cash losses, the amount of cash loss. 18th, resignation of statutory auditor, to whether their issues we were considered when we took the appointment, whether we considered their issues, objections, etc. There's no material uncertainty related to going concern. We are required to report that. Unspent amount of CSR, whether if it's a not an ongoing project, transferred to a fund. If it's an ongoing project, kept in a separate bank account, we are required to report that. And qualification adverse remark in CARO report of group companies. अगर group companies के CARO report में adverse remark are there, you have to put it here. And this is applicable when we are also reporting on CFS. Okay, any 21 clauses, answer is negative. We are required to give reasons. हो गया. What constitutes a title deed? You can read on your own. Question 11. CA Tejas was appointed as auditor of AKS, which is covered under CARO. Company has not maintained fixed asset register. So I will report under Para 3 Clause 1A of CARO 2020. Para 3 Clause 1 fixed asset. उसमें A point whether the company is maintaining proper records showing full particulars including quantitative detail and situation of PPE. They don't maintain a fixed asset register. They not maintain fixed asset register for this period, but from this period they started to maintain. The last date it is there. But a part of the year it is not there. I have to report under CARO. Part of the year I have to report under CARO. There's a PPE 25.75 crores. PPE 25.75 crores. Retired from active use, held for disposal. And last inspected 10 years back. So whether physical verification of PPE is done by management at reasonable interval, 10 साल पहले किया यार, and it's a major amount, 25 crore. So I will report under Para 3 clause, actually it's 1B. यहाँ पे it was 1A, this is 1B. Yeah, they use the Roman numbers, better use the Roman number. Clause 1 is Roman number 1. They use Roman number, use Roman number 1A, ये 1B में of CARO 2020. 10 years back they had done a physical verification. No, that's not proper. So I have to say whether reasonable interval. 10 year back is not reasonable interval, and that's to material amount. तो पढ़ा है कि चोरी हो गया. It may have been stolen also. So management should do a physical verification of PPE at reasonable interval. Next, physical verification of only 50% in terms of inventory was conducted by company. Balance 50% next year due to lack of time. Okay, so physical verification, half you did now, half you'll do next year. So I have to report whether it's reasonable or not. Now, lack of time resource, that's not correct. Lack of time resource, it's not correct. The report under Para 3 Clause 2 Inventory. उसके अंदर A point of CARO 2020. Okay. Lack of resources is not correct yaar, so inventory may not be shown correctly. You may also give a modified report also. We are unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about inventory. Half physically verified, half not verified. तो correct है नहीं है, I don't know. Next, Your fully computerized system, stock records are maintained up to date, and because of that, your fully computerized system, stock records are up to date. Company has dispensed practice of stock taking at year end. Oh, physical verification you're not doing. I have to report. So I have to see whether the physical verification is done by management at reasonable interval, and I also have to give an opinion. Whether the procedures and the coverage is appropriate. So यहाँ पे I also have to give about procedure and coverage. So also have to report about the procedure and the coverage. इसमें भी था. The coverage applied, auditor should satisfy with regards to reasonableness about the coverage and the procedure applied. यहाँ पे तो you are not doing only. यहाँ पे you are not doing the same report. Report under para 3 clause 2A. Of CARO 2020. Next. Shall the auditor examine the cost records in detail? Answer is no. You are not required to examine the cost records in detail. I just have to do a prima facie checking and I have to tell whether they are made and maintained. Only prima facie checking is required. Prima facie checking is required. I don't have to do it in detail. The company has appointed a cost auditor. And they request you not to review the costing records. So request of management is not valid. Okay, they have a separate cost auditor. Still, I have to report under CARO. Whether this costing records are made and maintained. If I have to report, I should see. And if you remember section 143(1), you have a power. You have a right to access books of accounts and vouchers. So you have a right to access books of accounts. It also includes costing records. So I have a right to access books of accounts and vouchers. That is there. 143(3)(b). Uske andar I am reporting whether all information explanation was given to me. All information explanation is given to me. So if I wanted to see costing record, they are telling no. So that is problem. Section 148 subsection 1. The section 148 subsection 1 says your costing records are a part of books of accounts. So section 148 subsection 1 says costing records part of books of accounts. And I have a right to inspect books of accounts. This is a right to inspect books of accounts. So costing records are part of books of accounts. I have a right to inspect books of accounts. I also have to report whether they are made and maintained. Management cannot stop me. So this all will be linked up. I'll write about all these things and then I'll conclude. I'll not write only about CARO. I'll write all these things and then I will conclude. Okay. A Limited requiring to make and maintain costing records contends that auditor need not report on non-maintenance of costing record because provision of cost audit is not applicable. See, cost audit is there or not? cost audit is there or not, I need to report whether the costing records are made and maintained. So contention is not valid. Contention is not valid. Auditor needs to report under para 3 clause, costing record was 6th one, para 3 clause 6 of CARO 2020, whether costing records are made and maintained. The cost audit is there or not, it doesn't matter. I have to report. Whether cost audit is there or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, they have not paid PF ESIC on monthly basis. They have not paid PF ESIC on monthly basis. I have to report undisputed statutory dues. To report under para 3 clause 7A, undisputed statutory dues, whether the company is regular or not. So para 3 clause 7A point, undisputed was A, disputed was B. You have not paid. ईयर एंड पे हो गया, ईयर एंड पे हो गया, नथिंग इज आउटस्टैंडिंग ऑन लास्ट डे फॉर अमाउंट एक्सीडिंग, for nothing is outstanding on last day for period exceeding 6 months. Nothing is outstanding on last day for period exceeding 6 months. But whether company is generally regular, I'll say company is generally irregular or company is not regular. Okay, next. Under CARO, auditor has to report on regularity of payment of PF ESIC. Give alternative draft of report. Alternative draft. Okay, so just alternative draft of report. The PF ESIC has been generally regularly deposited in all cases. Second can be PF ESIC have generally been regularly deposited, though there have been slight delay. Third one, PF ESIC have not been deposited. There are large delays, but there are no arrears as on last day for a period exceeding 6 months. And D, the amount outstanding on last day for period exceeding 6 months are this. These are alternative draft. Alternative draft. Either report can be like this also, this also, this also, this also. Alternative drafts. I hope you are clear. Alternative draft of report. Next, 20th. You received a so-cause notice. I told you mere so-cause notice is not a dispute. You received a so-cause notice. They are demanding 25 lakh. You replied. And no further action is taken. No further action is taken. So there is no need to report under para 3 clause 7B of CARO 2020. No need to report. No need to report. Mere so-cause notice is not a dispute. I have written over here, there is no dispute. Okay, question 21. there is a default in payment of dues to financial institution. Oh, there's a default in payment of dues to financial institution. Clause number 9, repayment of dues, default. However, companies settle the dues in April. Okay, same is outstanding year end, April में settle किया. Okay, fact about subsequent can be taken, but you have defaulted, it has to be mentioned. So report under clause, okay, first para 3, clause 9A of CARO 2020. Fact of subsequent remittance may be added. Fact of subsequent remittance may be added. But yes, you are required to report. Check para 9 ka para number 1, 9 ka clause A, whether company has defaulted in repayment of loans. Yes. So nature, amount not paid on due date, this all things. So I have to report that. Now whenever such question comes, write down that clause. वो clause को लिखो, पूरा A point you write down, then you say current case में this has happened and this we have to report. Then comes conclusion. Next, you've taken a term loan from nationalized bank, payable in 5 installment. Okay, the term loan from nationalized bank defaulted in this. Company has sought reschedulement. Short reschedulement. Application for reschedulement doesn't change your default position. So you're still in default. Reschedulement is not granted. So over here, same. Report under para 3 clause 9A of CARO 2020. Application for reschedulement will not change the default position. Next, you obtain term loan of 300 lakhs for construction of factory. You obtain term loan of 300 lakhs for construction of factory. The said funds were invested in short-term deposit. Delay हो रहा था construction में, temporarily you have invested somewhere. Whether the funds raised are used for that purpose. So this is, I think, 9B. Let me just go up 9B and 9C. Okay, it is 9C. Term loans are applied for the purpose for which they are taken. So they are not applied over here, but temporarily they are invested. Write down that also. Temporarily they are invested in FD. Write down that, but it is point C. 9C may we report. 9C we report. Report under para 3 clause 9C. And I should also report the fact, pending utilization, they are temporarily used for other purpose. So pending utilization, they are temporarily used for other purpose. Okay, question 24. It's important. Okay. During financial year 31st March 18, this is a private limited company. They have borrowed a term loan of 120 lakhs, 100 lakhs for purchase of machine, 200 for erection. As at 31st March, paid up capital and reserve is 50 lakh. Okay, paid up capital reserve does not exceed 1 crore. Borrowing any day exceeds 1 crore, 120 lakhs. Borrowing exceeds 1 crore, CARO applicable. So one is about the applicability. Okay, the bank paid 100 lakhs to vendor for machine. The machine reached the yard. The company has drawn a balance of 20 lakh and they used it for other purpose. The term loan used for other purpose. So they borrowed, term loan is 100 lakh for purchase of new machine and 20 lakh for erection. Company has drawn 20 lakh for renovating office building, other purpose के लिए used. तो report under para 3 clause 9C. Para 3 clause 9C. Next, term loan from bank for acquiring R&D equipment. You bought a car. Oh, R&D equipment, you bought a car. Term loan for acquiring R&D equipment, used to buy a car. Same. Report under para 3 clause 9C of CARO 2020. Okay, next. Uh, 26, various matters. There's a borrowing from parent. Okay, long-term borrowing from parent. It's not loans given. It's not loans given. It's loan taken. It is loan taken. So, not covered under clause 4. Under clause 3, sorry. It's not covered under clause 3 and 4. 3 and 4 mein it's not covered. 3 and 4 is loan given. 3 and 4 is intercorporate loans we give. 3 and 4 is loans given. This is, we have taken a loan from parent. Parent se loan, related party transaction. Yes, parent se loan, related party transaction. So we are required to report under, check related party transaction, it's 13. So whether they are in compliance with 177, 188 and whether they are disclosed in financial statement. So report under clause 13. Report under clause 13. Answer to A. Report under para 3 clause 13 of CARO 2020. It is a related party transaction. Loan from parent. It's a related party transaction. Next, B. Next one, B. Company wants to sell off the building and is active looking out for the buyer. While the same was purchased for 25 lakh, current value is 250 lakh. The property is pending to be registered in company's name. So whether the PPs are held in the name of company, title deeds. So I have to report it's not in company's name. So B point, report under para 3 clause 1C of CARO 2020. Para 3 clause 1C. Fixed assets, title deeds are not in the name of company. Okay, next. You paid this much to WeCare Associate, related party, for marketing services. No separate disclosure has been made in notes. Okay, the related party transaction not disclosed in notes to account. Related party transaction not disclosed in notes to account. The report under para 3 clause 13 of CARO 2020. It is not disclosed in notes to accounts. The auditor can modify his report also. The auditor may modify his audit report as well, the overall audit report. AS 18 not followed. AS 18 is not followed. You can modify the overall audit report as well. Okay, the internal auditor has identified a fraud. Okay, the whether fraud on the company or by the company is noticed. Whether any fraud on the company or by the company is noticed, report under, it is 12 lakh. So para 3 clause 11A. On the company, by the company, any fraud is there, we are required to report. B was anything informed to central government. Central government comes only when fraud amount is more than 1 crore. Yes, central government comes when fraud amount is more than 1 crore. The report under para 3 clause 11A of CARO 2020. Next, what are the reporting requirements under Companies Act CARO 2020? Fraud has been committed against the company and fraud has been committed, company has committed fraud. Both are to be reported. Both A and B report under para 3 clause 11A of CARO 2020. Someone doing a fraud on company, company doing a fraud on someone. Someone doing a fraud on company, company doing a fraud on someone, both are to be reported. Both are to be reported. I'll describe clause 11, then I'll say in current case this has happened. Auditor should report under CARO clause number 11A of CARO 2020. Okay, next, non-cash transaction with director. There's a non-cash transaction with director's son for acquiring asset. This is valid. This is valid. So you cannot have, as per section 192, there's a restriction on non-cash transaction with director or related person. But unless it is arrangement to acquire asset for consideration other than cash. So here it's valid, but still we have to report that is as per section 192. So whether it's valid, still we have to report. Report under para 3 I think it's clause 14. Let me just check it. Non-cash transaction with director is clause number 15. Okay, clause 15 is non-cash transaction with director. See, even though it's valid, I have to still write it is in compliance with section 192 of CARO 2020. So see, the draft is given. The company has entered into non-cash transaction with Rahul for this, and in our opinion it's covered under section 192 of Companies Act 2013. It is as per section 192 of Companies Act 2013. See, reporting is mandatory required. Reporting for CARO clauses is mandatory required. If CARO is applicable, auditor has to mandatorily report on 21 matters, whether problem is there or not. Whether problem is there or not, I need to mandatorily reply. Whether problem is there or not, I need to mandatorily reply. If CARO is applicable, you have to report on the 21 matters given under para 3. Even if they have complied, still you write complied. If they are not complied, write not complied. Okay, last question. Okay. Binearth Mineral Limited, it's a public company engaged in extraction of mineral. It has to pump out water in first layer of soil if minerals are to be excavated. So if you want minerals, you have to pump out water. The company pumps out water. Okay, so it has to pump out water for extracting oil. The water you pump out, you divert to nearby villages. And the cost of construction of water course through a water course is 5.25 crores. Companies say it's a CSR. Now, water which you pump out, you divert the water through a water course to the nearby villages. Now see, water you pump out is a part of your normal activity. This would have been required for extracting mineral. Anything which you do in ordinary course is not CSR. Anything which you do in ordinary course is not CSR. So there is no CSR spend done. If expenditure is incurred for activities in ordinary course of business, it is not qualified. It will not be qualified as CSR. Now, as spending is not done, I need to report. Report under CARO, not CARO, para 3 clause 20. Of CARO 2020. Spending not done. CSR spending is not done. This doesn't qualify. You're not done CSR spending, so you have to transfer to the fund within 6 months. No ongoing project. CSR spending not done. There is no ongoing project. The company has to transfer to the fund within a period of 6 months. Done. That's it. This was your CARO 2020. This is the revised one. Earlier was CARO 16. CARO 2020 is not applicable for May 21 exam. it will be applicable from November 21 exam onwards. Practically, it will come from balance sheet ended on 31st March 22. Balance sheet ended 31st March 22 say this will come up. Okay, a sentence for you. You cannot enjoy the life unless you can't get it out of your mind. Yeah, you cannot enjoy the life unless you can't get it out of your mind. If your mind is in trouble, you cannot enjoy your life. If you want to enjoy the life, the mind has to be free. All problems which you are having in your mind, you need to get out of that problems. And the simple solution is keep yourself involved. When you're involved in something, you don't think about that problem because you're busy doing something else. So the problem with us is whenever we have a problem, we sit alone, we don't mix up with people, we shut ourselves in a room, and then we constantly think about that thing only. And that will never reduce your problem, but that will exaggerate your problem. So you cannot be happy unless you get the things out of your mind. So please get off the problems out of your mind. Simple way is keep yourself involved with something. You don't have a time to think over the problem. See you all. Bye bye. Take care.